Hey everybody, it is late at night and I am Norman. The comments on my videos on YouTube are full of great suggestions that you guys have passed along to me. And I generally check out every one that you send. Sometimes I'll dig in deeper into those pieces or just make a note of them. So I've decided I'm going to start going back from the very early days and start collecting your suggestions, and I'm going to give those suggestions their own video. So tonight we're going to start with an early video I did on the CWC G10 Sapphire. I'm going to go through the suggestions that you had left on that video, and we'll take a look at those watches. So let us begin. Alright, so the video that these suggestions come from is my CWC G10, a watch that should get more attention video. And I'll put a link to it in the description if you haven't seen it. Even though it's so old, it's probably very painful. Alright, so the first suggestion that was left in the comments is a CWC non-sapphire watch. So CWC is brilliant. It stands for the Cabot Watch Company. But their non-sapphire CWCs look pretty great. The crystals on them are more boxy. They aren't the slightly domed that the sapphire ones are. I believe they're a bit cheaper as well. However, they have less water resistance than the sapphire ones do, and they don't have a screwed down crown. So the CWC Sapphire is basically an updated CWC that's been beefed up. They put the sapphire crystal on there, increased the water resistance so you can snorkel with these things on, gave it a screwed down crown. I believe they're a bit thicker though because of all of this. But I just love the crystal that's on the non-sapphire variants. So great. And the cool thing about CWC, at least with the G10 lines, you can choose to buy your watch with or without a date. But this brand also makes a great looking chronograph. I was checking out their dive watches also. However, those watches are 45 millimeters. Yeah, that's huge, even for a dive watch. But they look pretty cool. But if you haven't checked out CWC, you probably ought to. They have a great variety of super military watches that just look great. They have both mechanical and quartz pieces. And like we're discussing here, even in the G10 line, you can get sapphire or acrylic. I think there are some mechanical G10s. Now I'm gonna have to look again. But the non-sapphire ones also have a battery hatch for easy access. So the CWC G10 non-sapphire has a 36.5mm case size. The crystal on them is acrylic. The movement inside them is a quartz ETA movement. They have 50 meters of water resistance, and they retail for about $296. The next suggestion that came through was a Benrus DTU-2A. And these watches have larger case sizes, but wow, look at that side profile. They look really thin and sleek. Just a great looking field watch. I feel like the sleekness on these is on par with the Hamilton khaki field. That right there was the one reason that I actually purchased a khaki field. Seeing one on my brother's wrist, it looked so thin and just so well proportioned. And so does this Benrus. But again, it's a larger watch. These pieces have a case size of 39.5 millimeters. The crystal on them is acrylic. The movement inside it is a Sellita SW2000. They have 50 meters of water resistance, and they retail for about $595, so they're a bit more expensive. The next watch that you guys suggested was an MWC GTLS. These watches are put out by the Military Watch Company. Definitely getting creative with the company names. The case sizes on these watches are even larger than the Benrus, but they definitely have that G10 look to them. I like the look of the hands. They are completely covered in lume, and it's kind of cool how they vanish near the center. They're kind of Zen style in a way. The crystal looks great as far as I can tell, and it looks like there's a decent amount of lume in the triangle at the 12 o'clock as well. But these watches have 40mm cases, and the crystal on them is mineral. Personally, I would prefer either sapphire or acrylic, because at least with the acrylic, you can polywatch out minor scratches. More major scratches can still be dealt with, or the crystal can be easily replaced. Acrylic crystals aren't terribly expensive, and sapphire is just amazingly tough. But I feel like with mineral, I've definitely scratched mineral crystals in the past, and when that happens, yeah, you would just have to try and find a replacement, because those are just... I know that there is some polywatch that is supposed to work on mineral crystals, but you really need a Dremel to do that, and it's just going to take forever. Personally, I would say either go one extreme or the other. And the movement inside this watch is some kind of mecha quartz movement. So you have the benefits of quartz, and you get a sweeping seconds hand. They have 100 meters of water resistance, and they retail for about $246. So not terrible. I feel like this is kind of within field watch price range. $200 to $400, somewhere around there. You'll see outliers that are really expensive and some dirt cheap pieces, but I feel like for field watches, somewhere around this price range is pretty good. The next watch that you guys suggested was the Bertucci TI-22. These watches also have larger cases, at least as field watches go, and they have a very interesting crown at the 4 o'clock with crown guards. These are pretty interesting because the cases almost look like they're a melted CWC because of that crown. However, they are very affordable, and they're sold by Long Island Watch. I like the dials on these watches and the handset. Those just look great. I always love when field watches have the 24 hours on the inside of the primary hours indicators, and the small triangles outside of the indicators look pretty great too, nestled amongst the minutes track. I'm just not sure I'm a fan of that odd case shape though. These watches have 40mm cases, the crystal on them is mineral, the movement inside them is a Swiss quartz movement of some sort. They have a decent 100 meters of water resistance, and they retail for just $155. Not too bad. The final suggestion that we'll be going over tonight is the CWC G10. These watches have great looking box crystals on them. I believe they're essentially just a larger cased variant of a G10, and these are actually mechanical watches. So, yeah. Just like the G10 line, you can order these with or without a date. They're a bit thicker than a G10, but with the larger case, that might not be an issue. They may look just fine. But they are somewhat expensive, although they're mechanical, so alright. The case size on these is 38.5mm. The crystal is acrylic. The movement inside these is a Sellita SW200-1. They have 50 meters of water resistance, and they retail for about $582. So there you have it, your suggestions as alternates to the CWC G10 Sapphire. Thanks for watching. The acrylic on them is acrylic,